If you're watching this, chances are that you're probably playing Valorant in 1920 by 1080, 16:9 aspect ratio because what else would you play it on, right? What if I told you that there are some players out there who play on a 4:3 ratio, where textures lose quality and the image gets wider? This is known as playing stretched. But why do some players, including pros, play on stretched? For those of you who don't know, before Valorant, I was an avid Counter-Strike player. That's where a lot of my knowledge of how to play FPS came from. I hold the game near and dear to my heart. And in CSGO, playing stretched was a very common thing. In fact, if you didn't play stretched, you were actually kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage. Let me explain. Here's what the default player model in CS looks like on 16:9 native res. Now, here's how it looks on 4:3. On stretched, the heads of the player models are actually a little wider, making it easier to land headshots. Not to mention that the lower quality also meant higher frame rates. Back to Valorant. Let's see if playing on 4:3 yields the same benefits in Valorant as it does in CSGO. Right off the bat, we can see that the player model actually doesn't change at all. Despite playing on 4:3, the models don't actually become wider and they end up retaining their 16:9 proportions. The only thing that does change is the HUD, so no real advantage here. So now let's examine the frame rate. The easiest way to see this is to use my low-end laptop. Here it is on 16:9. As you can see, I'm barely getting 100 frames. Now on 4:3, this changes quite drastically. I'm now able to play at a more comfortable 120 to 150 frames per second. The only drawback, however, is the drop in quality texture that could arguably make it more difficult to see certain things. There's also some other minor inconveniences when playing stretched. For example, when you die and the stat screen pops up, it can block the right side of the scoreboard. The utility HUD also gets stretched, and bits of the buy HUD assets bleed out of place. More interestingly, the edges of the market get chopped off, sometimes making it difficult to read the name of the skins. So all in all, is it really worth playing stretched? In my opinion, not really. It provides no real tactical advantage and gives way for an overall messier look of the game. I imagine that players who do play stretched do it for two main reasons. The first being for familiarity and comfortability. If you didn't know, many of the top tier pros and arguably a large chunk of the player base come from Counter-Strike, and many were used to playing stretched. Playing 4:3 could provide some mental advantage in the fact that they feel more at home when playing Valorant. The second reason would have to be for the increase in FPS. However, Riot designed Valorant so that it could run even on lower end PCs, so I can't imagine that many players would need the boost in performance. In the end, if stretched isn't the moves, maybe it's time to play on squeezed.
Oh my gosh! You get another dash.
Hey guys, I'm flanking.
Shit, man.
Again.
He's Kobe.
Kobe.
Playing Kobe. Oh my god.
Come on, get this.
No, no, no!